The invitation arrives in your inbox on a Tuesday afternoon, sandwiched between a promo email for vacuum bags and a digital receipt from your dentist. It's titled Dad's 60th, Family Dinner Celebration exclamation point and all. You stare at it for a long time, not because you're surprised, but because something about the wording feels formal. Not warm. Not your part of this. Just efficient, like a corporate memo with a side of nostalgia. It wasn't even from your dad. It came from your sister, which on paper makes sense. She plans everything now. The family calendar, the group vacations, even the monthly group chat themes that no one follows but her. But still, you feel it. This dinner isn't a gathering, it's a presentation, and you're not on the schedule. You open the invite. The restaurant name jumps out first. Bella Vista, the kind of place your family loves for its dim lighting and inflated prices. You've passed by it before, but never gone in. Too many glass doors, too much chrome, too many rules about where you should park. You skim through the rest. A reminder to RSVP early, a note that we'll be covering Dad's meal, a dress code that reads more like a suggestion wrapped in judgment. Smart attire encouraged, no sneakers, please. And then, at the bottom, your favorite line guests should enter through the side lot entrance to avoid confusion with the party setup. Guests, side entrance, you blink and blink again, because you know exactly what that means. You're not part of the main table. You're part of the footnotes. You stare at the screen for another minute, then close the email. You already know you're going, not because you want to, not even out of guilt. You're going because something about this night already feels important, and not in the way they intended. The days leading up to the dinner pass like fog. No one calls, no one texts. Your dad posts a blurry photo of himself holding a golf club with the caption, 60 today. Not too shabby. The comments flood in. Your name doesn't show up once. You get a haircut, press your shirt, polish your shoes. Not for them, never for them. You do it because sometimes dressing sharp is a form of armor. The night of the party, you pull into the parking lot 10 minutes early. You could have come through the front. No one's stopping you. But instead, you loop around to the side just to see if they really meant it. There it is, a single door tucked between the delivery entrance and the staff hallway. A paper sign taped crooked to the glass private party. Please enter here. You look at it, and then for reasons you can't quite explain, you go in. The hallway smells like bleach and frying oil. You pass a prep cart, a tray of half-cut lemons, a busboy who doesn't look up. A staff member glances at you, checks a list, and nods. You're with the party. You nod. Follow me. You're led through the back around a kitchen. You didn't need to see past waiters rehearsing table numbers, past a server icing a burn on her wrist. Then finally you're pushed into the glow of the dining room, too bright, too sharp, too loud. And there they are. Your family, clustered at the head of a long table like a scene out of a mid-budget drama. Laughter, wine glasses, paper crowns. No one notices you right away, and you realize in that moment something else. They weren't expecting you to come. Not really. You walk toward them anyway. Not because they deserve your presence, but because sometimes the most radical thing you can do is show up anyway. You take 3 steps into the dining room before anyone even looks up. The host who led you in peels off without a word, vanishing like a stagehand. You're left standing there in your pressed shirt, holding your coat, already sweating under the sharp lighting and sharp silence. Then Claire sees you. She's mid-laugh, her head thrown back just a little too far when her eyes catch yours. And in that flicker, a smile freezes on her face. Not a real one, not the kind that says, hey, you're here, but the kind that says, oh, right, you actually came. Oh, good, she says, voice rising above the hum of table chatter. You made it? Everyone turns, but not all at once. Some glance and look away quickly. Some tilt their heads like you're a distant cousin visiting from another continent. And your father? He barely lifts his glass. You nod hi. Claire stands smoothing her dress. She gestures vaguely toward the far end of the table. We've got a spot set up for you just over there. Over there! You follow her gesture and see it a table technically connected to the rest, but barely. Half hidden behind a support column near the swinging kitchen door. A single chair, no place card, no wine poured. A napkin still folded like the setup was an afterthought. You glance back at the main table where every seat is filled. Laughter rolls freely, and 2 extra chairs are somehow taken up by a couple of family friends you barely recognize. One of them is wearing sneakers. Claire touches your arm lightly, voice hushed now. It's just to help with the flow of service. You know how tight these places get. You nod again. You don't trust your voice yet. You walk to the side table alone. As you sit down, you notice how no one makes space. No one even shifts their chairs to acknowledge your arrival. It's as if you were placed there by design like a potted plant, present but decorative. The waiter arrives 10 minutes later. Still waiting on a menu, he asks a little too kindly. You nod, apparently. He gives a sympathetic smile. You family? You let the pause linger before answering. Sort of. He laughs. Aren't we all at these things? You smile back, but it doesn't reach your eyes. Eventually, someone remembers you. Uncle Don waves vaguely in your direction while talking about Bitcoin. Aunt Rena asks if you're still doing your little thing with computers, which is her favorite way of referring to your company, that employs 9 people and just signed its first international client. You answer with a polite yes and watch her immediately turn to refill her wine glass. Your food arrives after everyone else's, a full 10 minutes late. No one notices. From where you're sitting, you can't hear the toasts. You catch glimpses Claire standing gesturing animatedly, your father smiling proudly, a round of clinking glasses. You try to catch a word, a phrase, anything, but all you hear is the clatter of kitchen trays behind you. You take a sip of your water and breathe in deeply. It shouldn't hurt. You're used to it after all. The exclusion, the minimizing the way your presence at family events always seems to bend around invisible boundaries they never bother to name. But tonight something is different. Maybe it's the smell of grease wafting from the kitchen. Maybe it's the literal physical separation. Maybe it's just the sheer theatrical absurdity of being seated behind a pole like you're bad Wi-Fi. But something in you, something tired and quiet, starts to shift. You don't speak up, you don't complain, you don't storm out. Instead, you watch. Watch how they don't look your way when they toast. Watch how your dad scans the table with pride and skips right over you. Watch how your sister laughs like she planned all this perfectly. And something inside you whispers, not loud, not angry, just steady. This is the last time. Not out of bitterness, out of clarity. Because tonight you don't just see the back entrance. You see the whole building. You shift in your chair and realize there's a draft back here. Maybe it's the way the swinging kitchen door keeps brushing open, letting in slivers of chilled air and the scent of dishwater and garlic. Maybe it's the pillar beside you that blocks not just your view, but your place in the room. Like even the architecture decided you didn't belong. You glance toward the main table. Everyone is mid-bite, mid-laugh, mid-story. The wine is flowing. Someone tells a joke and slaps the table hard enough that a spoon clatters. Your father grins red-faced and flushed with celebration. He holds court like a man born for it. He always loved being the center of attention. That much never changed. He used to call you his quiet one. Said it like it was a compliment, but it always felt like a lid. Now you sit at a separate table and think maybe he meant it literally. A server comes over tray wobbling slightly and sets your plate down. The food looks fine. Overpriced, perfectly plated, carefully bland. Can I get you anything else, he asks. You hesitate. A chair that's not next to the cleaning closet. He blinks, then realizes you're joking. Sort of. I'll let them know you got seated late, he says uncertain. You nod, don't worry about it. Because the truth is, you're not even mad at the restaurant. You're mad that no one at that table noticed. You eat slowly, methodically. You hear someone toast to the good old days. Someone else brings up golf. Claire is leading the whole conversation like it's a panel, and she's the keynote. Your name doesn't come up. Not when they talk about jobs, not when they list achievements, not when they bring up stories about everyone being there that day at the lake house, even though you were the one who planned the entire thing. It's not even erasure anymore. It's refinement, selective memory, rehearsed indifference. You set your fork down halfway through the meal. Aunt Rena turns slightly, notices you finally, and leans over with a fake conspiratorial whisper. I hope you don't feel too far from the action back there. You smile thinly, no further than usual. She chuckles, either missing the tone or pretending to. You've always been so independent. That's a good thing, you know. Some people just fit better adjacent. Adjacent. You tuck that one away. The night drones on. Coffee is poured. Cake is sliced. Someone takes a group photo, and when they ask you to jump in, it's not out of inclusion. It's because they realize the photo looks empty without your seat filled. You oblige. You stand at the edge of the frame. Claire checks the photo on her phone and smiles. Perfect. Perfect, with you barely in it. After dessert, your father stands and taps his glass. The room quiets. He lifts his wine. To 60 years, to health, to legacy, and to the family that makes life worth living. There's a pause. He nods toward Claire. She's built something incredible, keeps us all together. A round of applause. Then Marcus, taking on the world, that one. Who knew he'd end up running the whole division? More claps. He continues naming names, listing jobs, accomplishments, promotions. Each name he mentions gets a laugh, a nod, a toast. Yours doesn't come up. Not even a mispronunciation, not even a joke about our techie. Nothing. You watch him silhouetted against the chandelier glow, holding a glass of wine you helped pay for. And something in your chest goes still. Not broken, not bruised, just done. You finish your water, you fold your napkin, and you sit there unseen, unfazed, unmoved until the toast is over. Then you lean back in your chair and say just loud enough for no one to hear, "I'm going to buy this place." It doesn't come out like a wish. It comes out like a plan. Your dad's toast ends to clapping and clinking glasses. You clap too. Why not? Everyone else does. The sound fills the room, bouncing off high ceilings and polished wood, and somehow still it doesn't reach you. He sits down next to Claire, beaming like he's just been knighted. She leans in, says something you can't hear, and he laughs deep and full. You sip your water and let the cold run down your throat. From your position near the kitchen, the air smells like bleach melted butter, and the faint burn of something overcooked. It's not unpleasant, but it's not celebration. A server brushes by your chair without looking. Another holds the door for a line cook rushing past with a tray of creme brulee. You sit tucked in the corner, a place no one remembers unless they need to borrow a chair or use the restroom. Across the room, your dad starts listing memories, vacations, birthdays, his proudest moments. You listen. Not because you expect your name to come up now, but because it's strange watching someone rewrite history in real time. Claire's wedding, he says, lifting his glass again. Still one of the best days of my life. And Marcus, God getting promoted at 27, I tell everyone that story. You let your eyes drift to your plate. You remember Claire's wedding too. You remember being placed at a table with second cousins you hadn't seen since grade school. You remember paying for the videographer when their budget fell apart, and no one mentioned it. You remember Marcus's promotion party? You paid for the venue, quietly, anonymously. It was supposed to be a surprise gift. Still is, apparently. Now he's telling those stories like you weren't even in the room. You look up. Your father's face glows with pride with history. But you're not in any of his chapters. Claire clinks her glass. To Dad, a man who taught us how to work hard, stay proud, and always lead from the front. They cheer. The waiter brings around espresso. Someone makes a joke about retirement. You reach for your phone, check the time. You could leave now. No one would blink, but something holds you still. Then Claire turns. She walks toward you with her wine, the kind of sip and smile saunter that means she's about to deliver something she thinks is generous. She perches near your table like a monarch inspecting a distant cousin. "You okay over here?" she asks, smiling. "Sure." She looks around. "Sorry the seating was weird. We didn't want to break up the main flow." You nod. She takes that as permission to keep going. I think it's really great you came. Even if you haven't been as visible lately, it means a lot. Visible. That's what she calls it. Not absent, not distant, not deliberately shut out. You want to ask her what visibility means to someone who only looks in one direction. But you don't. Instead, you say, "Thanks for organizing this." She beams, of course. Then she adds with a wink, "Everyone has their role in the family, right? Some of us build. Some of us show up." You hold her gaze, you don't blink. "And some of us buy buildings," you say softly. She laughs. "What?" "Nothing." She stares at you a second longer, waiting for a punchline that won't come. Then someone calls her back to the main table, and off she floats, the queen of the evening. You sit back. The espresso doesn't come to your table. You're still not on the list, apparently. No one else comes over. The family begins to shift. Chairs move. Checks are discussed. Dad pats pockets. Claire waves her phone in the air. You hear the words split evenly, and except Dad's meal, of course. Aunt Rena stands to leave, stops near your chair. "Don't forget to chip in, sweetheart. They're just adding it all up, okay?" You nod. You pay your part for a dinner you were barely in. When the check comes around, Claire actually walks it to you. "You got Venmo, right?" You tap your card. She thanks you like she's doing you a favor. And just like that, the evening ends. You slip out before the photos start. No one stops you. No one follows you. You walk to your car under the fluorescent buzz of the parking lot lights the cold, pressing against your skin. You sit in the driver's seat, grip the wheel, let the silence pour in like smoke, and something inside you stops asking for a seat at their table. Because you've already decided, next time you walk into this place, it's going to be through the front. With keys. The next morning you wake up with a strange sensation in your chest. Not anger exactly. Not sadness. Just a sharp-edged quiet. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't beg to be named, just sits there, solid and still. You make coffee, toast, go through your normal Sunday routine. But your mind isn't on the news or your inbox or the sound of the kettle clicking off. It's back in that dim room. Back at that side table, back in the moment, Claire used the word visible like it was a kindness, not a cutting dismissal. Back in the moment your dad toasted to family legacy and left you out of his vision entirely. You sip your coffee and stare out the window. Something turns in your chest. Not bitterness, something older. Something heavier. How long have I been sitting in the wrong room hoping to be seen? You think about the check you split. You think about the moment Claire smiled like you should be proud to be tolerated. You think about the look on your father's face, satisfied, proud, fulfilled, and how none of it had anything to do with you. And for the first time in your life, you don't feel the need to change you. You feel the need to change the room. Your phone buzzes, a text from Claire, great seeing you last night. Thanks for coming. Hope the food wasn't too bland back there. LOL. You don't reply. You open your laptop instead. Type the name of the restaurant into a search bar. Bella Vista. The website is clean, tasteful, and full of phrases like intimate elegance and bespoke dining experiences. You scroll down to the footer. Find the contact tab. Click. A list of department emails pops up: general inquiries, reservations, event coordination. And at the bottom, owner, and operator, Michael Paulson, bellavista.group. You hover for a second, then open a new message. Subject: potential investment interest. Hello, Michael. I recently attended a private party at your restaurant and was impressed by the space and potential. I'd love to discuss a private proposal with you regarding possible acquisition or partial ownership of the establishment. Let me know if you're open to a meeting. Your name. You hit send before you can overthink it. Then you sit back. Let the quiet come again. It's different now, not heavy, not tight, just clear. You're not trying to embarrass anyone. Not planning a dramatic reveal. You're not even seeking revenge, if you're honest. You're just done waiting to be invited to the table. You're ready to own it. 2 days pass. Then a reply comes. Hi there. Appreciate your interest. We're not officially on the market, but I'm always open to conversations. Are you free to stop by this week? Let's talk. Michael. You smile. And for the first time in years, the silence in your chest breaks not with noise, but with something softer. Momentum. You text your assistant, move a meeting, pick a date. Because this isn't about the restaurant anymore. Not really. It's about stepping into a space they never imagined you could walk through and buying the floor under their feet. You walk into Bella Vista exactly 1 week after the birthday dinner. Same location, same tall glass doors, same stone planters flanking the front steps, but this time you use the main entrance. No paper sign taped to a side door, no busboy glancing over his shoulder, no invisible line dividing you from the real guests. Just polished glass swinging open to welcome you in. Michael, the owner, greets you in person. He's younger than you expected, late 40s maybe, with the practiced calm of someone who spent years smoothing out the chaos behind kitchen walls. Glad you could come, he says, offering a hand. You shake it firm and steady. Thanks for making the time. He leads you through the dining room, not to that dim back corner, but to the best table in the house. Right by the windows, you glance over your shoulder, half expecting to see Claire waving you back toward the kitchen. But no, this time, no one else gets to place you. You sit down, he orders espresso, you accept, and you talk. It starts with pleasantries, background, the restaurant's origin story, how he bought out his original partners, what kind of investors he's worked with before. You nod, listen, ask the right questions. Then slowly you shift the conversation. I'm not looking to micromanage, you say. You've built something great. I'd just like a seat at the table. Quiet ownership. I know what silence is worth. Michael studies you for a moment. Then he nods. I've had louder partners before. It never works. You smile. I'm not loud. He grins. That's why we're still talking. By the end of the meeting, the framework is in place, a phased buy-in. You'll start with a minority stake. Then, over time, you'll acquire majority control. Quietly, smoothly, no name changes, no press releases. Just leverage, exactly the way you like it. The paperwork takes weeks, lawyers, accountants, meetings. Your assistant handles most of it, but you keep tabs on every step. You watch your inbox fill with subject lines like transfer agreement and equity terms updated. You never mention it to your family. Why would you? They already made their introductions. They already chose your seat. Now you're choosing the building. The closing paperwork arrives on a Wednesday morning. You sign the last page before lunch. The digital confirmation pings through, and for a moment, you just sit there, staring at the words majority owner, Bella Vista Group Holdings. You don't feel the need to post about it. You don't send a group text. You don't forward the email to Claire with a winking emoji. You just sit, then close your laptop and go back to work. Because this was never about noise. It was about control. And control doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a whisper sealed in an envelope. 3 months later, the family group chat lights up. Dinner at Bella Vista next week, Dad's early retirement celebration. Claire's booking it. Everyone RSVP. You read it, smile. Then reply, sure, I'll be there. No one suspects a thing. And that is exactly how you want it. The night of your dad's retirement dinner arrives with the same self-importance as before. Same restaurant, same cast, same texted reminders from Claire, remember smart attire. Don't be late. Dad's expecting everyone by 6:30. You don't respond. Not because you're avoiding her, because you don't need to. You've already arranged everything. You arrive 5 minutes early. This time, no parking lot loop, no glance at the side entrance. You walk up the front steps like the building knows your name. The staff does, of course, quietly, professionally. You didn't want a red carpet or a title. Just awareness, just presence. The kind that doesn't have to be announced because it's already understood. Good evening, Mr. Your last name. The hostess says with a smile. We've reserved the Rosewood room for your party. You nod. Perfect. Let them come in through the main dining room. No shortcuts. She smiles wider. Of course. You step into the room early just to feel it. Same chandeliers, same polished floors, same chairs. But it feels different now, not because the space changed, but because you did. You stand at the head of the table for a moment, just looking around, breathing it in. It's not about showing them. It's about no longer needing them. At 6:27, they start to arrive. First, Aunt Rena chattering with her latest boyfriend. Then Marcus, loud and full of opinions. Then Claire, of course, perfectly curated in a dress that probably has a story and a price tag she'll make sure you hear about by dessert. Hey, she says, you're early. You smile. I own the place. Seemed right. She laughs like you made a joke. Classic you. You say nothing. Your father arrives, last arms outstretched like a sitcom dad entering his living room. The hugs go around. You offer yours politely. He doesn't comment on your seat. No one does, because your name is already on the table now, literally. Claire glances at the menu and raises an eyebrow. They updated the wine list. That's new. You shrug. Thought it was time. She tilts her head. You've been here a lot, huh? More than you know. The servers glide like clockwork. The timing's perfect. The service is elevated just enough to make it feel like a different place, because it is. Not in name, in energy, in arrangement. Because this time the seat near the kitchen, it's empty. And yours, dead center. The meal unfolds smoothly, toasts are made, jokes are passed, and still no one knows. Because you ask the staff not to say a word. Not tonight. You watch Claire shift in her seat as the hostess checks in on you first. Not her, not Dad, you. You watch your father glance toward the kitchen as if trying to figure out why everything feels tighter, sharper, quieter than he remembers. And you sip your wine and wait? Not for the reveal, not for revenge, just for the moment they realize the ground has shifted. And you didn't need to push them. You just needed to stop holding up the illusion. When dessert comes, Claire turns to you. Did you notice they're using a new pastry chef? The whole place feels elevated. You nod. That's what happens when ownership changes. She blinks. Wait, what? You smile slow. And in that instant, you watch the sentence form behind her eyes. You watch the reality land like snow, quiet but undeniable. She doesn't speak. Neither do you. Because this is the part of the play where the audience realizes they misunderstood the protagonist. And you You never needed their applause. You just needed the script to end. They don't ask you outright. Not at first. Claire's smile holds like stretched icing, sweet but too stiff, too perfectly placed. She's processing, you can tell, trying to map the timeline, trying to recall every time you were silent, every moment you didn't correct her, every dinner you showed up and sat where she pointed. But now you're not pointing anymore. You're directing. Across the table, your father's talking about something he read in a financial magazine, something about smart property investments and legacy plays. You nod along. Let him talk. You don't need to correct him. You already own the table he's leaning on. Marcus shifts in his seat next, like his body knows something before his mouth catches up. Did I hear you right earlier? He says, blinking. Ownership. You look at him, that's right. He blinks again. Of this place. You take a bite of your creme brulee, majority share, quiet partner. But yes, the room tilts slightly. Not physically, but in energy. Suddenly everyone's postures change. Forks pause midair, chairs lean subtly toward you. You're kidding, Marcus says. You smile. Do I look like I'm kidding? Claire recovers first. So, wait, this whole time, since Dad's birthday, you nod. The night I was seated by the mop sink. Yes, that night. It's not cruel, just accurate. Your father laughs, but it's forced. Why didn't you say anything? You look at him, and for the first time he looks back with no trace of authority. Just confusion. And maybe a touch of regret. I didn't think it'd interest you, you say. You didn't mention me in your toast, remember? He blinks. Claire flinches. No one speaks for a few seconds. You continue. You all had a pretty clear idea of who I was. Didn't seem worth correcting. Aunt Rena finally jumps in. But why this place out of all the places in the city? You glance around, the chandeliers, the booths, the windows that glow amber at night. Because I know exactly how it feels to be invisible here. Claire opens her mouth, then closes it again. You let the silence do the rest. No gloating, no theatrics. You don't need to. The truth sits there like an extra guest, loud in its stillness. And then the unexpected happens. Your dad leans forward. I was wrong, he says. No flourish, no excuse, just that. You look at him, really look. He's older than he was that night. Same suit, same posture, but softer now. Like the structure has finally stopped holding itself together with pride. I didn't know, he adds. You were doing all this. You nod, I know. And you just bought the place, he asks. You exhale, not annoyed, just calm. I didn't just buy it, Dad. I built the version of myself who could. Another pause. Marcus mutters, that's intense. You smile. It's called showing up. Claire pushes her dessert away not out of disgust, but out of knowing she missed something. A whole life lived outside the frame she tried to crop you into. The table doesn't break into applause. No one stands. No one claps you on the back and says, we were wrong. But they're all looking at you differently now, and that's enough. Not because you need the recognition, because now you know. You never did. You don't linger after the check. There's no reason to. You've said what needed saying. Correction, you've shown what needed showing. The rest, that's for them to sit with. In their own time, in their own silence. Claire fidgets with her napkin, as if folding it the right way might help her rewrite the evening. Your father keeps glancing at you like he wants to say something else, but every time he opens his mouth, he closes it again. No script fits this moment. You're not the version of you they rehearsed for. You're not asking for acknowledgement. You're not offering easy reconciliation. And that's the part they don't know how to handle peace without permission. Are you headed straight home? Your dad finally asks, his tone searching. You shrug, standing. I might stay a bit. Make sure the closing team's good. Claire gives a little laugh, trying to keep things light. Look at you, Mr. Hospitality. You glance down at her, not coldly, but not playfully either. Ownership has a way of changing perspective. You pick up your coat. The server appears like clockwork, already trained, already prepped. She hands you a to-go bag with the last slice of cake. No charge, no note. Just understood protocol now. You thank her. You nod to Michael, who stands at the bar watching the scene with a knowing half smile. He doesn't wave, doesn't call attention to you. Because he knows who you are now. Not a guest, not a client. The owner. As you walk past the table, you hear your name once from your father. Not shouted, not pleaded, just said aloud. Hey! You pause. He's standing hands in his pockets like he used to when you were a kid and caught him unsure of something. I meant what I said earlier, he tells you. I was wrong. You nod, I know. And I'm proud of you. You nod again, I know that too. You don't hug. You don't make it tender. You just give him the dignity of hearing the truth and the boundary of not needing more from it. Claire is watching, eyes glossy but silent. She's smart, she'll reframe this dinner later. Probably call it transformative or eye-opening in a podcast episode or two. Let her, let them all. They'll build their versions of tonight. But you own the building it happened in. You turn and head toward the front, walk past the hostess stand, past the dining room, out the tall glass doors that once felt too clean for you. You don't look back, because nothing back there defines you now. And as the doors close behind you, the night air hits your face, cool, steady, real. You take a deep breath, not because you're tired, because you're free. And freedom has no stage directions. You walk the block just once before circling back to your car, not to cool off, not to clear your head, just because walking forward alone, quiet, certain feels better than standing still. The city moves around you like it always does. Traffic rolls past streetlights, blink in rhythm, strangers laugh behind cafe windows. Life isn't pausing for your personal breakthrough. And that's the beauty of it. No spotlight, no narrator, just you. A person who finally stopped waiting for someone else to hand over power. You get to your car and sit there a moment, fingers resting on the steering wheel. The leather's cool. The silence is full. You're not bracing anymore. You're not rehearsing imaginary arguments in your head. You're just breathing. Your phone buzzes. A message from Claire. You didn't have to do it like that. You stare at the screen for a beat. Not because it hurts, but because it's so perfectly her. Still focused on what it looked like. Still missing what it meant. You don't respond. You've done enough explaining in your life. Now it's up to them to catch up or not. You drive home in the dark headlights, casting long shadows along the curb. The city hums, a quiet soundtrack to a chapter that's already closed. You think back to the first dinner, remember the smell of fryer oil and forgotten names. The back door, the chair that wasn't really yours, the toast where you disappeared, and you realize they didn't make you invisible, they just assumed you'd stay that way. That's what burned. Not the exclusion, the expectation. You weren't supposed to bloom in silence, you weren't supposed to build something in the dark, but you did. And now, you own the room they used to shrink you in. You pull into your driveway, engine purring to a stop. The house lights blink on automatically, your design, your timing. You step inside, set your keys down, pour a glass of water. There's no audience, no final applause, just peace. You take off your coat, hang it neatly, and smile. Because the truth is, you didn't buy the restaurant to prove anything. You bought it to stop asking for space in places you already belonged. And now that you've stopped asking, they don't know what to do with the version of you who doesn't wait anymore. Let them figure it out. You've already moved on. Later that night, you lie in bed with the lights low and the windows slightly open. The air is still soft, the kind that carries no memory of arguments or noise. Just silence, the kind you've earned. You're not thinking about them anymore. Not about who said what. Not about how long they overlooked you. Not even about the look on Claire's face when the truth landed. You're thinking about how strange it feels to finally be at peace without needing to be understood. It took years to learn that you don't have to fight for a seat at someone else's table when you can build your own. You remember the first time they made you feel small. The first time they laughed and said you were just figuring things out. The way they mistook your patience for passivity. How they confused your distance for weakness. And how none of it ever stopped you. Now here you are. Not triumphant, not vengeful, just still. Your shoulders don't carry the weight of proving anymore. Your voice doesn't strain to be heard. You don't need to win them over. Because you've already come home to yourself. In a world that rewards volume, you chose quiet power. In a family that measured worth in visibility, you made peace in the shadows. And now you sleep. Not out of exhaustion, but because there's nothing left to brace for. You no longer wait for invitations. You write your own entry. And if you're still awake, that's okay too. Some nights just lying still and breathing softly is enough to return home to yourself.